We're heading back to Lidl and their Craft Beer Festival with this beer from Stewart Brewery, Forbidden Fruit, a grapefruit pale ale. But what does it taste like? Check out the review to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. We're racing through these beers from the Lidl Craft Beer Festival, and this is the beer we're going to be drinking today. It's by Stewart Brewery. It's called Forbidden Fruit, and it's a grapefruit pale ale, and it comes in at 4.6% in a 440ml can. This is available for just the small price of £1.79. So, what's it like? Well, let's have a quick read of the can first. It says it's a tangy grapefruit flavours dominate this well-hopped pale ale, leading on to flavours of pithy zest and citrus, all backed up with a refreshing bitterness. And actually, when I read the ingredients, it's apart from obviously the hops, the yeast, the wheat, all the rest of that sort of stuff, it's also got grapefruit peel in it. So obviously trying to really give it a real big grapefruit flavour, which is unusual because, let's face it, there's a lot of certain hops that, if used correctly, can really create that grapefruit sort of taste. But they've decided to sort of amp that up a little bit by putting actual grapefruit peel in. So let's get this beer out of the can and into a glass and see whether it's going to be as zesty as you would expect from anything that's got grapefruit in it, basically. So, beer in a glass. It's, for a pale ale, it's got quite a dark sort of amber sort of colour to it. It's sort of a dark burnt orangey sort of almost brown colour there. You can see that. We got one finger of a sort of just off white head, sort of like slightly sort of mother of pearl coloured head. If you look at it from the sort of bottom of it, it's quite clear. You could probably just about make out my face through that the liquid there. But let's get some aroma, shall we? Well, there's no surprise that the big aroma here is grapefruit, but it's not really pungent, and it's but it does taste like it. It does smell like the grapefruit peel opposed to the actual flesh. I think if you had the flesh, it would be really sort of a real sort of juicy, really high levels of sort of aroma that would really sort of get into your nose and get your mouth buds going. But it's grapefruit, but it's dialed down a little bit. Again, supermarket beer, cheap supermarket beer, they're all a little bit dialed down in terms of their aromas and flavours. But in terms of flavours, let's give it a try, shall we? Cheers, everyone. As soon as you put it in your mouth, you get that bitterness. It's almost like as soon as it touches your lips, you know that there's going to be that bitterness in there. So you don't get that nice fresh grapefruit sort of flavour on the front end, and then that sort of lets go to a sort of nice rounded bitterness. The bitterness is up front in this, and it's almost like you get the bitterness and you're thinking, right, I know it's going to be a bit bitter because grapefruit generally is bitter, but I'm expecting to then get those grapefruit flavours start to come through, and I don't really. Let's have another go. We're going to go in again. Yeah, you've got that subtleness of grapefruit, but again, I've had beers which have no grapefruit, sort of, artificial sort of grapefruit or grapefruit, the actual fruit itself in the beer. Certain hops that give off that grapefruit, some of these Citra, there's that sort of experimental hop, which off the top of my head I can't remember. It's got a number on it that has a very grapefruit flavour. And that tastes more like grapefruit. A hop tastes more like grapefruit than actual grapefruit in the beer. And that's, to me, that it spoils it a bit. But the cheap beers, I mean, you see them. We've had Aldi beers, and we've had other supermarket beers that call themselves grapefruit pale ales, or they call themselves mango pale ales, and you look at it and you've got mango or grapefruit sort of puree in them, and you think, well, those flavours can come out with a lot of different hops, So why don't they just let the hops do the sort of talking, as it were, instead of feeling the need to put these sort of, the adjuncts in, as would you? I think would you call it adjuncts if it's actual fruit? I'm not sure, but it's obviously not just using hops and yeast as you would expect in terms of brewing a beer. I don't think you need to do it, and it's a little bit. I don't know whether it's a cheaper option. Maybe the actual grapefruit peel is cheaper than actually loading up with more hops. I don't know, but it does come across almost as artificial, even though it's got the actual fruit in it, which is very strange. It tastes all right. There's nothing bad about it. There is, if you've never tried a craft beer before, you probably I quite like that fresh grapefruit sort of flavour. But if you've drank a lot of craft beers and you're used to getting grapefruit sort of in the back end, when you're usually getting the mango and your pineapples up front and a little bit of grapefruit bitterness in the back end, you're not really getting this with this. It's just sort of bitterness with a slight sort of flirtation with a grapefruit taste, and then it sort of drops down. We haven't talked about the body of a beer. It's quite the carbonation's pretty high, and it's quite thin. So when it's thin and the carbonation's high, there's that a little bit of over fizziness, and that I think that does affect the flavours a little bit because of that carbonation is so high. You almost get that fizzy sort of flavour and the fizzy sort of sensation in your mouth, and the flavours don't come through as strongly. It's not bad. 179, yeah, it's okay. Would I drink it again? I'm not going to rush out, because even in the Lidl Craft Beer Festival, there are better beers for 179. The Session IPA, for example, was better. The Loch Lomond one was better than this. So it's okay. I mean, I don't know what anyone else thinks. Let me know in the comments below. It's a sort of solid-ish pale ale. 179. You can't go wrong. It's wet. It's alcoholic. It's all right. Let's get some scores though, shall we? Okay, the scores are in for Stewart Brewery Forbidden Fruit, and this is a grapefruit pale ale coming at 4.6% in a 440ml can. Available from Lidl's Craft Beer Festival for I suppose you would say it's autumn 2020 for £1.79. Not bad for £1.79, but not great. First things first, aroma. Well, I was a little bit disappointed. You do get that grapefruit, but it's all a little bit dialed back and subtle. And subtle is almost like a good word, but I just think it's sort of there, but it's not pungent enough, and it doesn't smell quite like fresh grapefruit. It almost has an artificial sort of grapefruit smell. So I'm giving it 10 out of 20 for aroma. Then appearance. Well, again, appearance-wise, I mean, it's kept its head a little bit of their attention there. Height, you can see how much carbonation's there. I mean, it's already, look at that. Shake it like that, you can see it's still moving up there. High levels of carbonation. It's a sort of muddy, burnt orangey, sort of browny orangey colour. It's not the palest of pale ales. So I'm marking it down a little bit, 6 out of 10 for appearance. Then the flavour. As you said, it's really a one-note grapefruit. But the grapefruit is almost like bitterness, and then you get a bit of grapefruit, but it's just, for something that's got grapefruit in it, it's not very grapefruity, if that makes sense. And as I said in the review, that you can get hops that give off a grapefruit flavour that tastes more real and more stronger, and it's and that is an artificial, because it's coming from the hop. It's not coming from the actual fruit. So a little bit of disappointed with flavour. It's not unpleasant. It's got that sort of West Coast type of bitterness in there, but it's not. It's just one note. It's bitter from the start and bitter at the front and at the back, really, and then a subtle bit of grapefruit in the sort of middle, really. So 29 out of 40 for flavour. In terms of value, though, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I mean, it's good value. 4.6% craft beer. it's a good value. You can't buy that sort of stuff anywhere. Some people, if they like bitterness in their pale ales, they'll probably like this. But if you're more in the New England sort of, you know, that softness, you know, the lack of bitterness, more real juicy, fruity flavours, then you'd probably be disappointed. So that leads me on to my overall experience, and I'm giving it 11 out of 20. It's not bad. And is it the worst of? I'm difficult to say now in terms of the Lidl Craft Beer Festival. There's definitely beers that are better than it. I think that the Loch Lomond ones are definitely a step up from this, and you know, the same price. So the Session IPA one is good. Even the Luminous Nights one, which I didn't think it was great, but it's definitely better than this for 20p more. So yeah, a little bit disappointed really. So 11 out of 20. So we top those scores up, we get 65 out of 100. So that's a mid-level Bon Jovi of beers. It's not terrible, but it's not great. And if you're in Lidl and you're picking up a few beers, there are better ones to try. So hope you enjoyed the review. If you like it, give a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Really helps out if you could like or dislike. If you want to get to see all the videos that we do and be informed of them as soon as they come out, then please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and then you'll never miss a video. So until the next video, you know what you need to do. Keep on rocking.